Hi there. It's November the 15th, and we continue our journey through the prophecies of Ezekiel, in Hebrew Yechezkel, meaning the Lord strengthens, and we come to chapters 31 and 32. So in chapter 31, Ezekiel takes an ancient poem, an ancient picture of the creation of the world as a great tree that has its roots in the waters of chaos and grows up. It's rather like the tree of life in Eden. And he's taking this as a parable because he's saying there was a tree. Actually, some scholars say that this tree is likened in parable to Assyria. Other scholars say that it's incorrect to see it as Assyria, and it's just talking about this great original tree. But it's saying how this tree pushed up and grew and spread. It was a great tree with shelter for the nations. The birds of the air came and sheltered in it, and it went up all through, right through the clouds even. Except that it says that no tree in Eden was so lovely. All the trees were envious of this great tree. The Lord gave it its beauty. So the concept is that this is the Lord who made this tree. This is a picture of creation, and it was the envy of other trees. But it becomes proud. This tree grows proud, and this pride, this arrogance is its downfall. And so in this poem, in the poem that Ezekiel is using as a parable, he says this tree is handed over to the forces of Babylon. And if it is Assyria, that also applies, because Assyria was attacked by Babylon and its great power was brought down. But the tree is brought down, and it's finished, it's completely desolate. And it says from verse 15, it says Sheol, the underworld, closed over it and took it down into the abyss. And the survivors of this, the survivors that have been sheltering under this tree, were scattered to the nations. And the word has come, in fact this whole poem is directed to Pharaoh Hophra of Egypt, whose power has become overweening and he's become proud. And so Ezekiel is really saying, like this great tree, or like Assyria, you will also be brought down, and you will go the same way. And he says this applies to Pharaoh, this applies to you, Pharaoh, this word is about you. And then in chapter 32, Ezekiel goes on to speak to Pharaoh in lament. It's a death song, really, and in this lament he speaks about this monster that is taken. Now he talked about Pharaoh as being like a Nile crocodile. This seems to be more of the suggestion that this is a sea monster that is taken the nets and is taken up out of the sea and then left rather like a beached whale to rot and to be the food for the birds of the air, and to rot, its carcass rotting. It's a horrible picture in a sense of what's going to happen. It's an appalling outcome for Egypt, because Babylon's sword, it said, is coming. Babylon is going to overrun Egypt, is going to be put down, and so this lament is being sung, this song over the loss, over the death. And the picture actually is of Egypt going down into the underworld, into the place of the dead. But then Ezekiel's kind of saying you'll be in the company of those nations who've gone before you, nations like Assyria, Elam, like Meshech and Tuval, Edom, and the princes of the north, and the Sidonians. They're all going to be there, and you will take your place among them. The same is coming to you, Pharaoh Hophra. Your place will be among the dead in the underworld. It's a very disturbing picture in many ways, a very disturbing picture of judgment that is coming upon Pharaoh and his people, as these hordes of Egypt are going to be overrun by Babylon. We can see that the upheavals of this time are all depicted here by Ezekiel as being under the hand of God. When we know that God is the God of all, when we know that He's the Creator God, there's nothing that escapes His attention. There's nothing that is that happens that God does not redeem and does not make the most of in terms of unfolding His purposes. And we remember that in all this, His purposes are always for His glory to cover the earth as the waters cover the sea, and for His ancient people to be restored to their homeland, to continue to be the picture of His life, and also to be the cradle of Messiah who is coming in the years to come. All this is leading up to that. And so Empires rise, empires fall. There is no empire, despite its own belief in itself, that will actually achieve what the Messiah will achieve. There's no one who will achieve in political terms what God can achieve through the power of the love of his kingdom. And of that kingdom we're ambassadors. Of that kingdom we are messengers as we go out into the world today. Have a very good November 15th.